Dynasty Football Key. Unlock success in every episode, talking NFL and fantasy football year round. Like and subscribe to stay ahead of the game. Today is Monday. We're going to do a mock draft, so I will jump right into it. I want to use my own rankings for each pick. I've noticed that with Sleeper, unfortunately, the ADP still has not settled yet, so it's a little bit all over the place. This is a 12-team rookie tight end premium mock draft. I'm going to start this draft off with Caleb Williams. In 12-team leagues, it's definitely hard to lock down long-term quarterbacks, especially when you get into 14 and 16 leagues. So quarterback who we think is going with the first pick in NFL draft, that's going to be enough investment by an NFL team to where I want to invest on my Dynasty team. Really has a lot of upside with not just his arm, but also on the ground. So he'll have a decent floor and should have really good upside if he can get some weapons around him, whichever team he ends up landing on. And with the second pick, this one, again, I'm going to just stick with my rankings. I do have Marvin Harrison here in the top two. I actually believe in some of the other quarterbacks that are going to come here next. Still, with the profile that Marvin Harrison has, it's just one of the top profiles we've seen, and it's really hard to pass on a guy like that. You know, he's got crisp route running, and this guy, when it comes to contested catches, it's really, he's putting the ball in his favor, and quarterbacks really trust him wherever they're throwing him the ball, and he can be a day one impact for any team that drafts him. So here with the next pick, the 103, I would like to go ahead and take Drake May. Drake May, to some, is the number one prospect in this draft. He has that prototypical size and arm talent. He is bigger than Caleb Williams. Drake May is 6'4", and they both have similar weight, but just has a lot when it comes to the ability to get the ball downfield. He has some speed. He can also run, so I believe he as well will have a good floor. And he's just a good quarterback that's comfortable hanging out in the pocket and giving the receivers time to get open. I think he'll be good for whichever team selects him, likely in the top three. With the next pick, I'm going Jaden Daniels. And even though there's another receiver prospect I really like here, his teammate, I feel like with super flex leagues, you do need to lean into quarterbacks. He's got the height, so I don't think passing and being able to see over any offensive line is going to be difficult for him, but he has some of the highest upside when it comes to rushing the ball out of any quarterback in this class, or even any running back in this class. And we can see this is the type of player that could lead an offense on the ground and in the air and really give the defense a tough time game planning. So if you give him one or two weapons and he himself as a threat, I think this could be a player that finds himself creating a very dangerous offense. Pick 5, I'm going to take Malik Neighbors, the teammate of Jaden Daniels. He, let's get this pick in. Yeah, Malik Neighbors, this guy, I've been watching the film on him and on a few of these other guys. Malik Neighbors, even though he's around that 6 foot mark, he just really has been effortless with that stop-start fluidity and has been able to torch coverage with double moves. He's got really good acceleration to attack those blind spots on those curls and comebacks. Like, you'll see him just, really sell those routes and fly down the field and come back and give that quarterback a target. I think with the plays where he's knows that he is not getting the ball, I'd like to see a little more effort. I just don't think that's something that coaches can't teach him to do. That's just one of those things that younger players will do is not sell every single route, every single play. But still, this guy has really good speed. He has a lot of big upside plays that we've seen him deliver on from the other end of Jaden Daniels. So taking him with a 105 and really feeling good about the players to start this draft class. This is tight end premium, so I will go Brock Bowers here with the 6th pick. And it's not just because of the premium. This guy really seemed to be one of the best tight end prospects that we've seen come out of college. He won a couple national titles and was somehow the focal point as a receiver for a college. There were other receivers there, but he was really the main attraction. With that extra defense on him, he still has been able to deliver, and we've seen guys like Sam Laporta come out and dominate as rookies. Whichever team takes him in the top 10, we hope has a plan to use him right out of the gate. So I'm taking Brock Bowers here. I think he's got a lot of upside with his speed, and even though he, again, is one of those undersized tight ends, He has a willingness to block. Maybe after a couple of years, he gains 15 pounds, and that could be enough to really put him in a more prototypical size, in that 255 pounds range for a tight end. So really like Brock Bowers. And next pick here at the 107, Roman Dunze. He looks really good when it comes to contested catches and being able to get open. He's always really friendly for his quarterback as a target. He's 6'2", 217, really good size. I think at minimum he's going to be a really good NFL player, and he's got elite ball tracking ability, over the shoulder catches. He'll do whatever he needs to do to go and get the ball, whether that's laying out and diving for the catches. He knows how to play against the defense with flashing late hands and not giving away when the ball's coming towards him, and being able to get back to the receiver to help out when the play breaks down. Really physical, and has a size to where I believe it will translate at the next level. Here at the 8th pick, 108. I think in 2 months' time it will come down to what quarterback goes here. And right now the buzz is on JJ McCarthy. I'm going to take JJ McCarthy here. There's a lot of teams that are very desperate for quarterback. He's got the youth on his side with the recent national championship victory. Teams in the NFL lean more towards intangible, or I shouldn't say more, but they do factor in intangibles. And he apparently has good leadership skills and knows how to manage the game, and knows how to not make him be above his teammates and make sure that he's playing his part to win the game. And we've seen guys like Dak Prescott start their career in that way, and then be able to elevate beyond that with time, and Brock Purdy as well. There's some value in that, and in a super flex league, especially when you get bigger in size, absolutely want to take a shot on JJ McCarthy. Hopefully he does get the draft capital, but he himself has good velocity throwing the ball and is comfortable in the pocket, so feel good about JJ McCarthy here. With the next pick, it'll be between Troy Franklin and I'm going to take Troy Franklin here at the 109. Yeah, Troy Franklin, really good wide receiver out of Oregon. He was relied upon heavily by his quarterback, and in this range of the draft, I do believe so. We've got 4 receivers that have gone. I think they're in the NFL. Another receiver could go ahead of Troy Franklin, but the later you get into the draft, the better the teams are there. So we're really hoping he goes at the end of the first instead of the beginning of the second, where some of the teams that didn't finish as highly will be in the first. Maybe he goes to the Chiefs. Maybe he goes to the Bills. Maybe to the Cowboys. One of these teams at the end that need a number 2 receiver, I could see him landing there. If he ends up becoming a number 1, that'd be really great. He was a highly rated prospect coming out of high school and performed very well in college. So I see a lot of upside for him because he has that elite speed that not every one of the other wide receivers in this class has. The past year's class had a lot of smaller, faster guys. This class has a lot of bigger receivers, so there aren't a ton that have that high speed upside. So that's why I think he can still be a first rounder. Him and another receiver I'll mention here in a moment. But Troy Franklin, really good footwork, and really can cover all areas of the field. I think with deep catches, he's had 30+ yard receptions in 12 out of 13 games, but also is able to work intermediate, and really good player here. So at the next pick, 110, we will take Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. Brian Thomas, he was paired up with Malik Neighbors, and he's really different from Malik Neighbors in that he's got the size of 6'4", long arms, and gives that quarterback a massive catch radius. He still has good field stretching speed and acceleration. I'm curious to see what happens at the combine. I haven't mentioned it this episode, but this is combine week, so this weekend coming up, we're going to get a chance to see some more of the measurables for these guys. And if Brian Thomas ends up testing in the 4 range in the 40-yard dash, I mean, this could be one of the top receivers in this class, and it wouldn't be that big of a stretch of the imagination. For him, he just needs to work on route running so that he's not as one-dimensional as far as what an NFL offense will use, because NFL offenses, they will categorize receivers into different positions, and because they have so many other guys that are specialists in other positions, they'll a lot of times keep them in that at least for 1 year, and until that player is able to really take on a good grasp of how the full roles will work for them, best for them, and be able to capitalize in games on that. So we'll see if he gets full usage in year one, but could absolutely see teams just focusing on what he's good at right now with some big deep plays and have him as a big target in the end zone. So could absolutely see a lot of touchdowns for Brian Thomas Jr. even this first rookie season. And at the 111 here, I do want to imagine that when the real drafts come around, we will have probably a running back who is on a landing spot that will push their value up, rightly or wrongly. So I could definitely see a running back being in this range. I think for now, I do want to think of what type of players generally for fantasy can help our rosters. And I think, between these two Texas wide receivers, I want to go with Adonai Mitchell, only because I think he can have really good PPR impact and be able to catch a lot of intermediate passes, as well as having a lot of touchdown upside. He's 6'4" as well as the last prospect I talked about, and he still has that speed and size and has really sure hands. So I think definitely the hands may be the tiebreaker between him and the next pick I'm going to take. So I'll go ahead and jump into the 112. Here I will take Xavier Worthy, also out of Texas. He's 6 foot, but he'll likely be the fastest wide receiver in this year's draft. So I think that can push him up. Maybe he gets into a really good situation. Problem for fantasy is a lot of times these are not high volume players. However, we have seen a Marquise Brown be a high volume player, and Brown was about the same size as Xavier Worthy. So it's definitely possible. He has a tough time with drops. So, it could definitely be tough for him in the next level if he doesn't clean that up. Still, with the speed, I think he's going to get drafted very highly and get an opportunity day one. So that ends the first round. Let's jump into the second round here. And here I'm going to start with Keon Coleman. And Keon Coleman, from everything I'm seeing, I do think he's going to get early second round draft capital. He's also 6'4", has the right size. I think he'll end up being someone that can get some jump balls thrown his way. And even though he may not have had the highest contested catch rate, still, I think that can be developed. He has really everything that he needs when it comes to instincts and vision when he has the ball in his hand, and can block as well. NFL teams are going to like this. And I'm doing a lot of the projection based on what are the NFL teams going to think? What do they want? And will they want to get this guy on their team? And I think so. I really do think he can be a really good contested catch player. And ultimately, we need to see if he can get more of an expanded route tree. But he has what we kind of look for in a prototypical size wide receiver. So just don't want to let him fall too far, knowing that there's a lot of upside here. That's just ultimately what he's coming to bring to the table. And there's a lot of folks that are down on him. I just think I'm not sure if the combine will help his numbers, but I do think an NFL team is going to be interested. So definitely want to get a chance to have a share or two of Keon Coleman. And with the next pick, I'm going to stick to receiver here. And looks like I will need to scroll down to find Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. He was paired up with Brock Bowers in Georgia. He was a part of that championship run team. And he really played well at the Senior Bowl. I don't think people were giving him too much praise before, during the season, during his time playing. After the season, when everyone's watching the tape, yes, he was getting some praise even before the Senior Bowl. But during the seasons, it was basically Brock Bowers was the main attraction there. And this guy is really shifty. He's got precise route running really everywhere. And at the Senior Bowl, was able to really be unguardable in a lot of instances. Good hands. Still on the smaller size, 5'11", 187. It's just that we've seen enough to think that he's going to get an opportunity. Still has good speed and Could be a good slot wide receiver in the NFL. With the next pick, might be time to go running back, and I like Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks here, wide receiver running back out of Texas. He really only got that one start. Bijan Robinson was there the year before, and I was thinking there were other running backs that were going to step up and take that place, but he took over. He took over this past season. It ended with a injury to his knee, ACL injury. It does sound like he will be ready for this next season. 6 foot, 207 pounds, so decent size there. But he showed that he had good pass catching ability, good vision, and decent speed. There was a lot of breakaway runs, I remember. So, and not necessarily game breaking speed, but he could really just get through the hole and be fast enough to break loose. And it's really down to the safety to try to save him. So I like Jonathan Brooks. It's really just coming down to how much does the injury affect his draft capital. If he's not a day 2 player, then we have to drop him to some degree. And that's just the reality of the situation. I think he's going to get decent draft capital. So I like the pick here. And with the next pick at the 204, this is going to be a running back run. We'll start it the second running back here with Trey Benson, running back out of Florida State University. Trey Benson, really good contact balance. I love seeing him bounce off of guys and just keep going. He was really good. His 2022 season, I think that I was excited to see what he was going to do this past season, and not as many highlights. Still, really good player. I think he also needed that last season to show that he could stay healthy, and he did that. So I'm feeling really good about what Trey Benson can do in the NFL. So many teams do need running backs, maybe not desperate need. I can absolutely see Trey Benson getting a shot on day 2 and being a really good player for our fantasy teams. Next pick. All right, I'm going Bucky Irving for the pass catching ability. I like what Bucky Irving can do as a pass catcher. So for me, it really just came down to that. I think for PPR leagues, he's exactly what you're looking for in this class. There are other running backs that have good pass catching, of course. I just really liked what I saw from him. Some decent vision. He had been, even though he's a little bit on the smaller side, he had been involved in pass protection and being able to block. His size is a little bit underweight, 5'10", 194. That's not too bad, though. We saw Devin Chain be smaller than that this past season. His really good speed, stop-start ability. So I can absolutely see him being a part of a committee, which is fine in today's NFL. Just don't see him being a lead back. However, with Jahmyr Gibbs, we saw him being able to thrive in a role like that as just a pass-catching back. So I don't want to knock him too much for that. Okay. Next pick. Let's see. I would like to potentially continue the running back train. Just want to make sure, with the quarterbacks, I'm struggling to push them up without the landing spot. We just don't know where they're going to go yet. And for me, that means I'm going to continue with the running backs here. Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. He's really good at being big, the biggest back in this class. He, the vision isn't always there running into some of his players, but I can see him be a number 2 as well. There are just a lot of teams where I've listened to mock drafts of team-specific teams, and there's multiple teams where they're looking for a goal line back. The Carolina Panthers are looking for a goal line back. The Dallas Cowboys are looking for a goal line back. I think even the Packers, losing Agent Dillon to free agency, are looking for a goal line back. A lot of teams could have a role for Braylon Allen. The order of these running backs will come down to the draft capital, and he doesn't necessarily have elite traits in, other than size, ultimately. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I do believe the size is almost locks him into being able to have an opportunity in the NFL because he can take on a lot of those carries and keep the other running back fresh. With the next pick at the 2-7, going to continue this running back train and take Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, teammates with Caleb Williams, and I think he has also shown that he's got some good pass catching ability. He had 13 yards per reception, so when he's getting the ball, he's doing something with the ball, and 13 is getting you a first down every play. He's been able to be that good dump off option for Caleb Williams when the pocket breaks down or he leaves the pocket and there's a tough time finding an open receiver. I think Marshawn Lloyd will be a really good safety blanket for any quarterback in the league. I think it'll be day 3, but early day 3 draft capital for Marshawn Lloyd. And really last year, I started to believe that what is considered good draft capital for a running back is being pushed back. The NFL is devaluing running backs early, so I think day 2 used to be if there's a day 2 running back, I would select them. If they were drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round, which is the 2nd day of the draft, I would take that running back almost no questions asked. And then in the next rounds, it would be more iffy. I think at least if you get 4th round draft capital, I'm in on giving you an opportunity on my team. And maybe it's only a couple spot starts. Maybe Lloyd's a part of a committee. He's 5'9", but he's 217, so he has a good BMI. So he can definitely hold up. And I think really for him, if he can just be a good dump off option, or he has decent speed and can definitely can move in the open field. I definitely think he's got an opportunity to be a good running back for us in fantasy. 2-8, and I'm looking at my rankings because a lot of the other videos I have been, the computers are drafting, and then it's hard to find all the players and the picks are weird, but got them all here. It's just so easy to get away from sticking to the board, and just want to make sure I do that so I can give you guys how I had these ranks. And I want to do a breakdown of ranks afterwards in some upcoming videos for each position for the vets and for the rookies. And with this pick, I will take Ja'Tavion Sanders, tight end out of Texas, at the 2-8. Ja'Tavion Sanders, he's really good. He's really good. I remember, I live in Austin, and I used to go to University of Texas. I definitely have seen Sanders play, and 2 seasons ago, I really felt like he was one of the best players on the offense, and the numbers kind of bore that out. He was one of the best receivers we had, and 2 seasons in a row. We brought in more ammunition the past year with Adonai Mitchell and some other transfers and recruits, but Sanders still remained a top option on the team. So I think the teams have found it really easy to trust him to be on the field at most times and use him as a feature part of the offense. And when they're doing that in college, that's really good for their chance of producing in the NFL. So Ja'Tavion Sanders at 6'3" and 252 pounds. He still has decent speed and explosiveness. No drops this past season. Really good hands. I loved his hands. He would catch everything, pluck it out of the sky. So really good focus while being tackled. I think this is a really great player. So I'll leave it at that. It's tight end premium. Definitely needed to get tight end off the board there. With the next pick, I've got Blake Corum. Let's go ahead and cue him up. Blake Corum at the 2-9. I mean, that's good value for how these running backs are falling. Blake Corum was on that championship Michigan team. I think he's going to be a lock for our fantasy second rounds because he's another one of those guys that can be a goal line back, but he's got some good ability to read has the patience, read the offensive line, what's going on there. He's shown that he can be good with whatever role the team needs. He can do some pass catching. Didn't have to. This past season, they had Donovan Edwards, who was their pass catching back. So again, it will depend on this draft capital for these guys. He's on the smaller side, 5'7" and a half, but 219. So that's probably one of the highest BMI totals for any of the players here. Absolutely can see Blake Corum getting a role with with easily the Chargers. They have a running back need with Austin Eckler, potentially leaving that team at some point. A lot of opportunities, I think, for Blake Corum here in 2024. All right, next pick is in, and at this point, we're gonna take Bo Nix. Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. Nix was really, really stepped up after transferring from Auburn to Oregon. He has projection of going potentially in the first round. He seems to have better traits than JJ McCarthy, who I took in that first round of ours. He is on the older side, 24 years old already, coming out of college. But 6'1", 218. He can make every throw. He's shown it. You watch the tape of him and Troy Franklin, and they really look good together. He's able to develop that connection. He can make those tight window throws with anticipation. Good processor, decent size, like I said, so he can withstand some hits and can move around. Isn't a complete statue. Not going to give us rushing really for fantasy purposes, but definitely should be able to get a high volume of passes out with good accuracy. So that's really all we can ask for. And if he's going to get a starting opportunity, which I actually really think he will, then we've got to be considering him. And I again, if he's starting, these quarterbacks just should go higher. If that ends up happening, Will Levis in this draft, that's very comparable to Bo Nix. So Will Levis in this draft would be probably, it could easily be ahead of all these running backs and be a first rounder. It's totally realistic because we need quarterbacks in our dynasty leagues as well. All right, next pick, going to continue this quarterback run with Michael Penix. And he was another Heisman candidate, had a really good season, was in the national championship game, beat Bo Nix twice in this past season, and showed that he's really smart player. I like seeing a lot of the games he played, except for the Texas one where he beat him. And really he's only left-handed quarterback here, but really big hands, doesn't seem to have any issue when it comes to throwing the ball. Strong arm, can make every deep pass. He and Rome Odunze look really good together. Good velocity, can really avoid throwing the ball to the other defense. Knows how to knows when to throw it out of bounds. So I think when I say that Rome Odunze has really good ability to catch over the shoulder passes and any sort of tough ball that's thrown his way, those balls are coming from Michael Penix, and I think of that Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson tandem, where if you have a receiver that can handle those type of passes, those are the best passes to throw, where they're not going to be intercepted by the defense, where you're going towards the boundary and over the shoulder where only your receiver can get it. Penix knows how to throw those type of balls. Can absolutely see him getting first round draft capital and getting a starting opportunity at some point, either this year or next year. But I think it'll be midway through the season. He'll get an opportunity somewhere. Next pick, going back to Michigan with Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson, I think he ended up getting declared as the actual winner of the Senior Bowl, even though Ladd McConkey had a couple good days there. I know that the quarterback won the Senior Bowl game, but as far as the practices, Roman Wilson was really unguardable in a lot of sessions, and he rose his draft stock quite a bit. And 5'10", 186, so not terribly big, but he is very explosive and twitchy. Just wasn't asked to do a whole lot in Michigan. Just like McCarthy wasn't asked to pass the ball a lot. It was a more run first team, so it's hard to see a lot of his skill set flash on tape. But good hands, and again knows how to play his role. And it does seem like he can do a lot more since he was showing a lot at the Senior Bowl. Okay, so that is the end of the second round. Let's go ahead and jump into the third round here and start the third round. And this is how I know I'm using my rankings, because I'm having to go way down this list already. But I feel good about it. Gonna go, well, I'll just say who it is and I'll find him later. Going with Jalen Wright. Probably just past them. Let's see if I can find Jalen Wright on here. Just type it in. Oh yeah, they've got him way back there. That's fine. I noticed in some of the other drafts he'll be there in the 5th round. I'm like, what is going on? So I can't wait till some of this ADP gets updated. Okay, so Jalen Wright, he, I think he's, he is really good. Just has good size and ability to, whatever offense he ends up going into. I do think he'll be in a committee. That's okay. He has good hands. Wasn't necessarily asked to catch a lot of passes, so it won't really show it there. You know, only 5.7 yards after reception. Still, that system in Tennessee had a lot of players like Cameron Sullivan who were hybrid type athletes who were actually receivers but playing at running back, and the quarterback was not a dump off the ball type of quarterback. Really, he wasn't asked to do too much, but he had he's had a good offseason so far. I just think this guy is just really good, solid. 6 foot 215. I mean, good size for running back. I think this guy can be really good at the next level, at least in the real NFL. We'll see how it translates for fantasy if he gets that opportunity. And let's go back to the rankings here. And with the next pick at the 3-2, we've got Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. One of 3 really good ones that they had there. Jalen Polk, he at times was the better wide receiver on that team in certain games, in certain moments, and that's great. I mean, I think that shows he might have an opportunity to do that in the league. I think he'll get day 2 draft capital, 6'2", around 6 foot. We'll see what the official measurements are, but 200 pounds. He's got good ability to leverage change of speed as he's running his routes. Good agility. Again, we'll see what the actual metrics show here this coming weekend. But another good ability out of Washington to contort and catch difficult passes, uses the hands to catch, so not a lot of drops. As far as him having that confidence to catch that ball. So I think he could be a good target for any quarterback that he's got. And again, when the wide receivers are good in the blocking game for the pass protection, then that's going to push him up boards, and he's really good at blocking as well. It makes sense since he wasn't the number 1 target. He had to be able to do that from time to time, and he excelled there. Next pick, so we're about halfway through. Next pick, Devontae Walker. And let's get the pick in. Devontae Walker out of UNC was suspended or was not able to activate from his transfer immediately this past season. So he had a shortened season. I'm not sure how much of the offseason he got to participate in, but he did not have the chemistry, it seemed. And then his Senior Bowl, didn't have a lot of catches because he had a lot of drops. So that hurt the public perception. I still think with the way the NFL teams operate is, do you have the speed and do you have the ability to get open? And yes, you may have dropped the passes, so you're gonna have to hit the jugs machine. He has a hand size of 9 inches. I don't know if that is part of the reason. Some of the drops at the Senior Bowl, I don't know. Maybe it was like he was looking up late, but he wasn't able to fight off any contact either. And the players are only going to be bigger, faster, stronger in the NFL, so that could be an issue. I think if he has really good speed on the 40-yard dash, then it just won't matter. He's going to end up on day 2, probably 3rd round at worst, if he can just continue being fast as he has been. So I think that's going to be his calling card for whatever team he's on, but he has the ability to do more. It's just, again, like I said earlier, the teams have specialized roles a lot of time until the injuries start to hit. So it's just going to depend on what the opportunity is. So for me, I'm just seeing him as a 3rd wide receiver on the team early in his career, and maybe a number 2. So that's Devontae Walker. With the next pick, going Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley is being called the Yak King. I think Malik Washington actually had number 1 in Yak, but either way, really good at getting yards after the catch. This guy is, he not only is shaking people, but he's breaking people. He's running people over. This guy can move 215 at 5'10", so that's a good BMI. He can run some guys over, and he's got some decent speed. We'll see how that looks at the combine. But yeah, this guy, he can move. He's got some confidence. We'll just see how he does in NFL. I just think at this point, he could go higher, depending on how the draft goes, for sure. Next pick, going back to running back Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. He had a good season this past year. I got a friend of the family who went to Notre Dame, and so I kind of check in on that team. They always have a decent squad, and he maybe he doesn't get day 2 draft capital, but still I think he's back, and the quarterback was not a dump off the ball type of quarterback, really he wasn't asked to do too much, but he had he's had a good offseason so far. I just think this guy is just really good, solid, 6 foot 215. I mean, good size for a running back. I think this guy can be really good at the next level, at least in the real NFL. We'll see how it translates for fantasy if he gets that opportunity. And let's go back to the rankings here. And with the next pick at the 3-2, we've got Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. One of 3 really good ones that they had there. Jalen Polk, he at times was the better wide receiver on that team in certain games, in certain moments, and that's great. I mean, I think that shows he might have an opportunity to do that in the league. I think he'll get day 2 draft capital, 6'2", around 6 foot. We'll see what the official measurements are, but 200 pounds. He's got good ability to leverage change of speed as he's running his routes. Good agility. Again, we'll see what the actual metrics show here this coming weekend. But another good ability out of Washington to contort and catch difficult passes, uses the hands to catch, so not a lot of drops. As far as him having that confidence to catch that ball. So I think he could be a good target for any quarterback that he's got. And again, when the wide receivers are good in the blocking game for the pass protection, then that's going to push him up boards, and he's really good at blocking as well. It makes sense since he wasn't the number 1 target. He had to be able to do that from time to time, and he excelled there. Next pick, so we're about halfway through. Next pick, Devontae Walker. And let's get the pick in. Devontae Walker out of UNC was suspended, or was not able to activate from his transfer immediately this past season. So he had a shortened season. I'm not sure how much of the offseason he got to participate in, but he did not have the chemistry, it seemed. And then his Senior Bowl, didn't have a lot of catches because he had a lot of drops. So that hurt the public perception. I still think the way the NFL teams operate is, do you have the speed and do you have the ability to get open? And yes, you may have dropped the passes, so you're going to have to hit the jugs machine. He has a hand size of 9 inches. I don't know if that is part of the reason. Some of the drops at the Senior Bowl, I don't know, maybe it was like he was looking up late, but he wasn't able to fight off any contact either. And the players are only going to be bigger, faster, stronger in the NFL, so that could be an issue. I think if he has really good speed on the 40-yard dash, then it just won't matter. He's going to end up on day 2, probably 3rd round at worst, if he can just continue being fast as he has been. So I think that's going to be his calling card for whatever team he's on, but he has the ability to do more. It's just, again, like I said earlier, the teams have specialized roles a lot of time until the injuries start to hit. So it's just going to depend on what the opportunity is. So for me, I'm just seeing him as a 3rd wide receiver on a team early in his career, and maybe a number 2. So that's Devontae Walker. With the next pick, going Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley is being called the Yak King. I think Malik Washington actually had number 1 in Yak, but either way, really good at getting yards after the catch. This guy is, he not only is shaking people, but he's breaking people. He's running people over. This guy can move 215 at 5'10", so that's a good BMI. He can run some guys over, and he's got some decent speed. We'll see how that looks at the combine. But yeah, this guy, he can move. He's got some confidence. We'll just see how he does in NFL. I just think at this point, he could go higher, depending on how the draft goes, for sure. Next pick, going back to running back Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. He had a good season this past year. Got a friend of the family who went to Notre Dame, and so I kind of check in on that team. They always have a decent squad, and he maybe he doesn't get day 2 draft capital, but still I think he's one of those goal line back types where he's not a fast guy, but he can kind of ground and pound, get some tough yards for first down, decent vision. So I can see him having a role. I do like the player, just not particularly fast or anything. And with the next pick, I've got Xavier Leggett, and this is another one where we definitely want to see the metrics at the combine, because we want to see how fast he is. We want to see how tall he is, because the college number is a little bit boosted. They changed at the Senior Bowl. Lost like 3 inches at the Senior Bowl from what was reported in college to that day, going from like 6'4" down to 6'1" or something like that. But he's 223 and still seems to be fairly fast for that size. So that's going to be a hard guy to tackle. It's an NFL body type. I can absolutely see him being a jump ball receiver or an end zone threat. So the tough part is trying to rely on touchdowns. Still, it seems like he's absolutely going to have some interest in the NFL from some team. And with the next pick, we're going to go with another wide receiver, Ricky Parasol, out of Florida. He is another receiver that we want to see this draft capital. I think teams are going to be interested in Ricky Parasol. He's got good, the size that most of these other receivers have, 6'1" or a little bit under 200, but he's a good route runner. I would say no wasted movements. He can sink his hip and really stop on those routes, get back to the quarterback. Good at shaking the defenders off. Like, he's getting open. That's really all that matters. He's getting open, and if they throw him the ball, he'll catch it. We'll see what he can do after that. Doesn't have the speed to really break away, so I can see him being a slot receiver in the intermediary area of the field. Absolutely can catch any ball thrown his way. So, like Ricky Parasol, and I think he'll be comfortably in this 3rd round once the draft is over. With the next pick, it will go 2 more wide receivers here. So this one will be Javon Baker. See where they've got him. I know they recently added him, so I'll just type him in. He'll be at the bottom for sure. All right, here he is. Javon Baker. Just got added this past week, and he another good wide receiver. Got some good ability. 6'1", 208. So one of the at this point, I would say there's maybe 5 receivers that are in the 6'3" range, but 6'1" is actually still a little bit big for some of the other receivers in this class. So he's kind of right there in the middle. And he's got, again, 208. That's a good size. So I like the size that he's coming in with. Look good at the Senior Bowl as well. University of Central Florida, transferred out of Alabama. So he's, recruited by some good programs, highly ranked prospect out of high school. But yeah, he does look good. He looked good at the Senior Bowl. I think this is going to be a really good player. We'll see where he lands. I think it'll be day 2. Let's see if he can make it into the 3rd round, and we'll absolutely be interested here in these fantasy drafts. And the next receiver I was alluding to is Jalen McMillan. I kind of have this at the at the end of a tier, but still, I would say there's a couple of the guys that I might ultimately have in this tier. Let's get Jalen McMillan on the board. Out of Washington, paired up with Polk and Dunze. He played well. I like watching his game when they were on their playoff run. It was like, okay, there's three guys you gotta watch out for here. It's gonna be pretty tough for these defenses. So I like what he can bring to the table. I just think it'll likely be like, in our drafts we might be taking running backs over him because there's just going to be other running. It's just we don't want to have too many receivers that aren't going to get consistent production because he may end up maxing out at a number 2 wide receiver position on a team. Really just depends on him and what he can do. But 6'1" is a good size, right under 200 pounds. He's 22 years old, so I think the youngest out of those receivers on that team. So got some room to grow, and I think coming out of college early means that he was advised to go because he's probably going to get drafted. So like what Jalen McMillan's got to offer us. Realistically, though, for some of these drafts, I just think running backs is going to be the main play. I just have these ranked for how I like the players. Next, I've got Ray Davis. He's on the older side. Still, he's good. So don't want to knock him too much for just being a little bit of an older prospect. He had 8.2 yards per reception, so he can catch the ball and go. It's not the highest, but it's still not bad. And he's got an opportunity if he can start in a complimentary role, and maybe he can be a good pass catching option, or we'll see what role he ends up getting. Again, it'll come down to draft capital with all of these running backs, and I think in this range you want to take a lot of shots on the running back, especially in this 4th and 5th round. I'm not necessarily I'm gonna in later videos I will try to pinpoint who could be that Tank Dell type, or just the player that emerges. I'm trying not to say the other name because I don't really want to do 1-for-1 comparison of the last year's class, but I do think there's going to be some players that emerge because there have been every season. And a player like Ray Davis out of Kentucky, he put up some good numbers, showed that he could shake some guys. I mean, he's on the shorter side, but he has a Blake Corum type BMI where, short, but still 220 pounds, and, could be used on the goal line, but can also still be an outlet for the quarterback. So, good vision and all of that. I think this guy, he can play. Just got to get into a good role, but it'll likely be a committee. I mean, he'll be basically an injury away option for a team. Okay. With the next pick, I've got Brendan Rice. Brendan Rice looked really good at the Senior Bowl. I had Brendan Rice on a Campus to Canton team, and I think I was just sleeping on him because at USC they were bringing in Jordan Addison one year, and then this last past season they had Zachariah Branch go off, who will likely be a top wide receiver in the next 2 seasons ahead from now. He was never the guy, but he's got the prototypical size. I think he's around 6'3", and he's got that pedigree. I think NFL teams are going to be interested. And, just like when you think of drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., and you'll have probably Marvin Harrison Sr. in the building from time to time, maybe you'll get Jerry Rice in the building from time to time. And at minimum, he has that work ethic. He's shown that he's been able to continue to get better. So I like what he's got to bring to the table. We'll see what the draft capital is, but at the Senior Bowl, he really did look good and kind of separated himself in that way. So at least give himself an opportunity to get drafted. Still see it being day 3. Not crazy fast, but he does have some speed. And it looked like he had good route running, not necessarily shaking guys, but getting to where he needed to be, and he can high point the ball with that size and could be that end zone threat. So maybe get a lot of touchdowns. We'll see, but definitely like the idea of taking Brendan Rice. And to end the 3rd round, let's take a look. I've got Cody Schrader. I'll just type him in here. Cody Schrader, Missouri. Nope, didn't go in. All right, Cody Schrader. Yeah, he's not a pass catching running back necessarily, um, but good player. I think he'll be a compliment in the backfield somewhere. I don't want to overhype him too much. I definitely think he's got a role in the NFL though. Uh, he's got some. He's got some good size as far as BMI is concerned. I mean, it's 5'8", so not tall, but 210. So I do like that for goal line backs. I just don't see him necessarily being the lead back at any point. So here maybe in the premium, I want to take a tight end over him. I'm not exactly sure about the roles some of these tight ends are going to get. I think I would probably move up the tight ends at this point. I'll take Cade Stover here to start the 4th round. And Cade Stover, tight end out of Ohio State. That matters. And he I think ran out of eligibility, but he had a good little career there. There's just a lot of other weapons on that team, so it's hard for him to shine. But he did what he needed to do. The most tight ends in college don't get a massive opportunity. He just needs to block and get open. Again, another undersized tight end. It's around the 6'3", 6'4" range, but he's at least at 250 pounds. Good hands, able to track the ball out of the sky. Good size. So he's got really good at blocking, but he's got that size. So no problems there. Just not fast. So with the tight ends, I do want them to be a top 2 target on their team most times if possible. If I have them on my roster, some can have more value from the potential opportunity they may have in the future. So that is a factor when it comes to dynasty trades. With the speed, I don't necessarily see him being a featured option in an offense at any point. So that's why I have him this low. And with the next pick, I'm taking Jermaine Burton. Let's find him. There we go. Yeah, Jermaine Burton here in the 4th round. Another receiver that I had, 2 years ago, I had a year ago, I had Jermaine Burton pretty highly coming into this class, but I think it may have been more about helmet scouting, being on Alabama. I just was, there's a run of receiver after receiver after receiver coming out of Alabama and playing really well. So kind of was thinking he was on that trajectory. Still, this past season, he had 0 drops, for highlighting what is good. And, he's able to make those contorted catches, good route running ability, able to be a good target for a quarterback if the pocket breaks down and he needs, someone to get open. But he just doesn't have the physicality when the players are the defense is right up on him. And, it's more of like, he catches it and goes down. Just doesn't have that yards after catch ability. So it's more of a Adam Thielen type of player, which could be good. That's a high comp, but more so the Adam Thielen, you don't see him getting yards after the catch. That's the point. So if he can be a good possession receiver, then we'll take that, especially here in the 4th round. And I was not drafting these teams as if they were drafting to build a particular roster. I was kind of just going through rankings. This team too, hopefully doesn't just draft all receivers in real life. But it would have been hard to pass on McConkey. It would have been hard to reach for estimate at that point. Maybe you do it. Maybe this is where they should have taken a running back in this range. Because I'm going to go with the next pick, Washington running back, Dylan Johnson. See if I can find him. Or if I'll have to type that in. Just go ahead and type in Dylan Johnson. Oh, wow. 2,000 range. So I wasn't going to find him. Yeah, he got injured in the national championship game, but was really trying to play through the injury, show some good heart. I'm not factoring that in. Just that's top of mind. And he's pretty solid, decent like a lot of these other running backs. I think it just depends on the opportunity for a lot of these guys. When you get that visibility on the national championship stage, that helps. But I think him having the baseline size is good. He's 6 foot 218. That's he's got everything working for him from like the optic standpoint, and he produced. So I just don't see why not give him a shot. I could definitely see him getting an opportunity somewhere. Let's go ahead on to the next pick. And I've got Will Shipley here. Will Shipley out of Clemson. I also had to hire a long time ago. Just didn't seem to have a really great season this past year with some of the other running backs there. But size is okay, 5'11", 207. We'll just wait and see how his draft capital pans out. But a lot of the projections have him lower down the board, and I factor that into. So gonna move on to the 4-5 pick, and here I've got a player higher that I probably need to move down, but I'll take them here. Jacob Cowing. Player is good. Size, really small, short size. So that's just going to factor in heavily for a lot of NFL teams. We'll see, how much that factors in. Still, I like what he was able to do, and I think he'll get an opportunity. He was out of Arizona. He looked good at the Senior Bowl, was able to get some separation, but at receiver, it's just tough. I said I'm gonna have to lower him. I'm not sure. 5'8", 165 pounds. He's pretty small all around. So sometimes you can be a really good college player and it might not translate into the NFL. I think this is like the size of maybe Greg Dortch. He might even be taller than Rondale Moore on that same team, but I think Rondale Moore was 5'7", Jacob Cowing's 5'8". We'll have to see on that one, but a good player. I just think I'm gonna have to lower him down my rankings a little bit. Still in the 4th round, not too bad. Again, good player. All right, Dylan Lobby, who I have next. There he is. He's another running back who was at the Senior Bowl. And again, this is more of a process play. I don't necessarily think my opinion is going to matter as far as the dynasty perspective. It's more just we've got to be willing to take some of these running backs who can just get a couple spot starts. When I'm playing in the season, we can't forget about how the season goes. There's a lot of injuries, so some of these guys are going to get opportunities, and I might prefer to have the 2-game stretch that Lobby is playing versus Jacob Cowing, who maybe is the 4th receiver, but I can't start him, because I have other receivers that I'm starting that have a better opportunity. Since there's 3 receivers that generally produce on every team, there's just a lot more receivers producing versus running backs, since it's usually just one running back at a time. So you want the ones that are going to be, you don't want to just hoard all these receivers and you can't use them all. And it's really only going to be the ones with some upside that people want to trade for. So with Love, he's 5'9", but 210, so he's got a decent BMI. Probably going to be a late pick. At this point, there's so many running backs that I could, there's gonna be late. These are gonna be late picks at this point. Still a decent player that probably ends up getting drafted. Next, I'm going Isaiah Davis. Just gonna type this one in. Isaiah Davis. Yeah, so let's see. Do I have a running? It looks like I've got this is a tier of about 8 running backs that I have going in a row. So I might want to just fly through these and just knock out some of these picks. But Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. He's 6 foot 220, so the size is there. So that in and of itself gives him an opportunity to look good at the Senior Bowl. A lot of different individual team mock drafting sites or media people do have him going, day 3, but definitely getting drafted. So at this early in the game, you do want to get players that are getting drafted. Not saying that undrafted guys won't produce. It's just trying to get through training camp, mini camp, all of those things. You do want someone that can make it to the actual season this late in the draft. But like I said, I should fly through some of these picks. So I got Rasheen Ali next. And let me just get all of these on the board. Jawar Jordan. Oh, that's not him. And Dijun Edwards. Okay. Oh, I don't see him on here, so we won't be taking him. That's fine. He was a running back out of Georgia. I think he'll end up on the team. I don't want to do a placeholder for this, so I'll just move on. And I will take the next tight end. Whoops. I will go Ben Sinnott. And this is a player that really gets buried on his ADP for some reason for me. And I'm going to go ahead and clear through the rest of these rankings or of this rounds. And here's a guy I mentioned earlier, Malik Washington. Malik Washington, and then to end this round, we'll go with Amani Bailey. All right, so he's not on here either. We'll go with Jamari Thrash next. Yeah, so again, that was after that Isaiah Davis pick. I went Rasheen Ali, Jawar Jordan, Ben Sinnott, Malik Washington, Jamari Thrash. Rasheen Ali went to Marshall and saw some of the tape at the Senior Bowl. He's 5'11", 204, so he's got decent size. Definitely can see him with an opportunity there. You'll notice a lot of running backs in these later rounds. Definitely want to get some of these later guys that can get an opportunity. The NFL draft is going to tell us a lot, so we'll have to kind of pivot when we get to that point. I think in NFL draft, a lot of these guys will be later. Like Jawar Jordan, he went to Louisville. He's 5'10", 185. So on the smaller side, I could see that being enough to keep him from getting drafted. You don't want to be too lanky if you're going to be 185 at running back. He's not crazy tall. I would just want to see what role he ends up getting into. All right, and after that, we've got Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott, 6'4", 254, so decent size compared to the other tight ends in this class. No real difference there. He was at the Senior Bowl. Looked really good. In college, he won the Doak Walker Award, so he was playing fullback, but also that kind of shows that he's a really good run blocker, pass protection blocker. He'll get an opportunity in the NFL. We'll see how much they rely on him as a pass catcher. So for fantasy, that's all that's going to really matter. That's why I'm not as high on him. But he absolutely showed that he can be good. The year before, in 2022, he was a part of that national championship contender team. So definitely has the ability to play a role in an organization. I'm just not sure he's going to get a big opportunity as a pass catcher. And we have Malik Washington. I mentioned he actually had the most yak out of any player in this past season. So I can absolutely see some appeal of why someone may want to go with, this Ben Sinnott or Malik Washington here. Players who have shown a lot. I think they'll easily get drafted ahead of the running backs here, but that's not really how fantasy works in real life. But these guys, for them, Malik Washington, I might be more interested in. Maybe he has an opportunity to be more than just the third option on his team. The problem for him is the height. So I don't think it necessarily comes to fruition that he's a number 2 or number 1. But decent BMI, 5'8", 192 pounds. So he could be really hard to tackle. Can absolutely see that. So, and then Jamari Thrash to in that 4th round, and he maybe trying to remember if I spoke to him already, but yeah, he went to Louisville, 5'11", 185 pounds. So let's see what he can do in this upcoming season. All right, we're going to go ahead and try to rip through this 5th round. Again, these have been based on my rankings. That's why this one's taking a little bit longer versus just having the computer make some random selections. Johnny Wilson is who I've got next. Another big and tall receiver that we just got to make sure that the combine metrics are true, that they are really tall and fast. But he was paired with Keon Coleman, and he might have had better numbers in a lot of games than Keon Coleman. So definitely not a player I want to sleep on completely. There's just a lot of receivers in this class. I can see him going much higher than this, but he may end up being a tight end. So there's a little bit of unknown there. He was listed at 6'6", but only 237 pounds, which is very light for that height. So it is like kind of more of a receiver body, just really tall. It just doesn't normally translate for one reason or another. Maybe it's the speed, but we'll see. He's gonna have to be really good at run blocking and being able to be a big target in the end zone for an NFL team to want to use him. It's just the size is definitely more of a tight end size. So that's kind of what's holding him back there, because he does want to play wide receiver. So they'll just have to have the conversation if he's ready to make that transition. And even though I keep saying I want to speed through, I keep forgetting, and I'm going on a deeper breakdown of these guys. So I'll try to rip through again. Isaac Guerrero at the 5'2". I've got Blake Watson next. Blake Watson. And let's go with Taj Washington. Okay. So maybe he's not in here either. We'll go down to Anaya Smith. Next. These are going to be some deep drafts. I'm ready to see who else my league mates are picking. I got Spencer Rattler. I've got 3 quarterbacks in a row here, which means I didn't know who is really going to get that capital, but it seems to be Spencer Rattler, no doubt. George Travis had that injury at the end of the season. That's what's holding him back. But he definitely seems to be better than Joe Milton, which is who I got next. And Mike Pratt, I could see Michael Pratt being better than these guys ahead of him, especially the guy right in front of him. Has some passing ability. I could, if one of these guys goes in the second round because the team wants a project quarterback, that's going to boost their draft stock up. Bryson Nesbitt, I got next at tight end. Then I've got, the process says take a lot of more running backs here, so there are definitely some running backs here. I'll take Jace McClellan here. That is actually what I have next. I've got Carson Steele, Kendall Milton, Jaquez Hunter, Mayan Williams, and then Theo Johnson. But they're not all going to fit, so I will get Carson Steele in here and Theo Johnson to end it. So like I said, we've got the NFL Combine coming up this next weekend, so I wanted to get one more mock draft without that information. This is so early. We don't have a lot of incomplete data is what we're dealing with right now, so we'll get a good picture after the Combine. Then we'll have March, which won't have anything football related going on, except for the free agents. Free agent market will be going, and we'll see how that shapes the needs for teams coming into the NFL draft. So we can do new mocks based on that. Maybe some trades happen. We'll see how all of that shakes out. But we're doing all of this getting prepared for the NFL draft in April. So we've got about 2 months exactly. Stay locked in. Let's go ahead and figure out who we need to be targeting in these later rounds. I think the early rounds are a little bit easier, but even still, there's a lot of mistakes that can be made. So let's not just forget to keep evaluating these picks, and at the same time, don't get into take lock and just continue thinking that what you thought back in January and February is going to be the same after the draft. We got to be flexible, adapt to new information, and make sure that we're making the best picks possible. So for me, I'm going to be targeting these quarterbacks early on and some of those elite pass catchers after that. You notice there's no running backs in this first round at all. I can see the steam to increase the value of one of these running backs if they go to that great running back team. But we've seen it before where that doesn't always mean it. There's a more talented player available, then I'll probably lean towards them. I think after you get out of that top 5, then you really have to make sure that it's the right fit for the team. Here in tight end premium, it makes sense to take Bowers. Maybe in a non-premium, you go Dunze ahead of him, or even McCarthy, if it's really like a situation that makes sense, there's going to be people that are going to take Bowers and a lot of these players ahead of McCarthy almost no matter what. Like, doesn't matter that McCarthy's a first rounder or anything. We see it every year, and then ultimately that player ends up being more valued than the tight end. It's just when you look at startup drafts, there's no tight ends in the first round, and that's generally always quarterbacks. And McCarthy might be a game manager, but you'll see in the second round, there's really just Laporta, and there's some of those pocket passer type quarterbacks in that range. So don't sleep on some of these quarterbacks that are going to be here. Like I had mentioned in that second round, I felt like that was probably late for some of those quarterbacks. We'll see, but I do like a lot of the receivers in this class as well. So happy to take them. And what you get beyond that first round, that's where it feels comfortable to take some of these running backs that we think are going to get good draft capital. And after that, I think in the third round, there's just a lot of good receivers. Still, it's take your pick if those running backs fall. I would say it's a big receiver tier in that third round. And fourth round, I think in general, I would want to target some running backs, some of those tight ends, and even those other quarterbacks. Like I would probably take Rattler in this fourth round if I were to redo some rankings. So that's some stuff I'll be working on over the course of the offseason, where to slot in some of these back end quarterbacks, where these other tight ends fit into the mix. Amongst all of the tight end rankings, I think they'll be fairly low. Maybe backup tight ends to start, maybe in the Isaiah Likely range, with an opportunity to grow to starter role. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening to the Dynasty Football Key, and I hope to see you on the next episode.